An absolutely insane shout out to the one and only Jane Wilde. Queens gets the money. Yes, the Queens-bred New York City young lady with the most pizzazz, shouting it out and actually just chopping it up with the one and only Attack the Culture, Cyrus, I should say. Amazing Q&A. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's get you to understand who Jane Wilde really is. Also, I just want to really point out the fact that you still have a New York area code based phone number. Like, can we just acknowledge, even though you're an LA girl now, you are super like New York to the core, even with the phone number?
Yeah, don't expose my phone number.
We won't. We won't.
Yeah, there's a couple New York area codes, and yeah, I've always had this number, and there's been a couple of instances when, just for privacy's sake, I was thinking, should I just, change my number and start over? But it just never really happened. So yeah, I still technically rep New York with that area code, and I'm proud to. I'm happy to.
And you know what's so dope about you repping New York? Like I actually am from upstate New York, right? And now I'm in the New York area, so like I really do like rep the whole, New York, Manhattan type stuff. But like, you have Queens in your blood, and I don't think people really understand how dope that is. Like you're not just, and there's no offense to like the Manhattan ladies and the Sex and the City Sarah Jessica Parkers and whatnot, but like, you were Queens. Like, can we just acknowledge how dope like Queens bred is for you?
Thank you. Thanks so much. And I completely understand what you're saying. Like, there's so many different types of New Yorkers, and I think that, well, I went to summer camp with a lot of people that were grew up in that. Like, if you're from New York or you're from the Upper West Side, like, your apartment overlooks Central Park, that was not really my reality, although I was not, poor by any means. My family was, I would say, like, middle class, like, towards upper middle class, but there's just something about growing up in Queens, like you said. Queens is the single most diverse city in the entire world. Period. Like, that's a statistic and a fact. So from a very young age, I was just exposed to so many different cultures and types of people and opinions. And, I always went to public school. So I just feel like, yeah, I kind of was raised like differently than a lot of people I've met in my life. And I'm just like, how do you not get some of this stuff? But I guess it's just like cultural differences.
Like Jane, I love it. No, honestly, like Queens for me, I know like a few times like throughout the month, like Jackson Heights, I'll pull through there, and just like different areas of Queens that I just absolutely love to embrace. I mean, Latin American culture, you got Indian culture out there, you just got all types of meshes, and I just got to know, without getting too deep into the whole background, just like what part of Queens do you really kind of consider home, and just kind of like what are some of those areas that you have to pull through whenever you make it around home?
Yeah, I'm cool talking about it.
Okay.
I grew up in the Forest Hills / Regal Park area.
Okay.
So I would say technically Regal Park, but it like was more so the Forest Hills area, like it bordered on that. So that it's a very Jewish area, and I'm Jewish, so we were kind of like surrounded by our people. I went to a synagogue as a Jew, and I did Hebrew school for a long period of my life. So I feel like, I was just back there recently, like earlier this month, and it was the first time in my life since I have moved out of New York coming back that I felt like almost like, how do I describe it? Like an outsider, but also an insider at the same time. Because it was like, I'm looking at all these places that I grew up around, like the Forest Hills Gardens, like Queens Boulevard, Austin Street, and all these places that I grew up going to. And I'm just like, they look familiar, but at the same time, it feels like so disconnected at this point from living in LA for like over 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. And plus, like, you've grown and things, and it's weird because I know some towns that I like I said, haven't been from upstate New York, and like you go back and it's kind of like you've kind of outgrown some of those things, but like you still appreciate it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Although, well, Austin Street, it's a particular block that's like kind of the main shopping area of the city or the neighborhood I grew up in. And it used to be so much cooler when I was growing up. There was way more stores. Obviously, like, you know, the rent was much cheaper back then. There's just way more cool stores and places to hang. And now I don't know if it's COVID or if it's just like the times are changing, but it just didn't have the same vibe that I used to. So I think now that I have realized that, I'm like, okay, so the particular neighborhood that I grew up in, I do feel like I've outgrown it. This is an opportunity for me to explore other parts of New York because it's so big. There's parts that I have gone to maybe once or twice in my whole life. And that's crazy to me. Like, I really want to know New York and be able to explore all of it and be familiar with all of it. So that's like my goal going forward, is to familiarize myself with more different parts of the city.
And let me tell you, Jane, with all like the people that you've befriended out there in the LA area and just California in general, I can't imagine you not having like a laundry list of like friends who would like want to come out with you and be like, Jane, you got to show us Queens. Oh my God, Jane, you got to take us to Times Square.
Yeah, no, definitely. And even like on this recent trip that I was there, I ended up meeting up with a friend who just happened to be there at the same time. And it was just cool. We were like, I was in Midtown Manhattan, which is not really, I would go there maybe like once a week when I was in high school, but it wasn't, you know, like my main stomping ground. But just being there with a friend, like from my industry and from my life now, it was so surreal in a way. And to be walking around Times Square, I was like, I felt like a tourist for a minute. I was like, oh wow, I guess like Times Square is kind of cool if you're like, if you don't live here and you come here, you're like, oh my fucking God, it's like packed and insane here.
Yo, exactly. No, Jane, you're so right, because I know what you mean. Like, it's kind of one of those things where, like, I know for me, I've gone 50-50 where, like, especially on dates and whatnot, people from out of town who, like, want to see, like they want to see the flashy lights at Times Square, but you also got to show them that, like, yo, there's more to New York than just the touristy stuff. So you got to, like, got to take them to Junior's Cheesecake and or Cat's Deli down over on Lower East Side and things like that. So I completely know what you mean.
Yeah. Like, there's so many hidden gems in New York, not just like, obviously the flashy lights are like what makes people pay attention, but then if you really care to, like, you know, take a deeper look or take a trip there and, you know, not just go to like, oh, the top restaurants to eat in this area, like, it's just, there's so much opportunity to like learn and like, I don't know, just appreciate the culture of the city and what it has to offer. So, looking forward to that,
Jane,
for sure.
100%. And I got to know, on that most recent visit, did Joe's Pizza end up being one of those stomping grounds, or did you not make it out to Joe's Pizza? Because you got to explain, because I got a couple like low-key pizza spots, one in Washington Heights and so on, but Joe's Pizza, I've never ventured over to.
Okay, so I will say that Joe's Pizza, and I've had it in the past.
Okay.
It is like one of the best New York slices I've ever had.
Nice.
I could even accurately rate the slices I've had because, first of all, there's so many different places I've tried. And second, like, my sense of like reality is all tainted now from living in LA, where the pizza's just like straight ass.
Exactly.
So I just like, now I'm like, any New York slice, I'm like, this is amazing. But the question, I just randomly happened to walk by Joe's on a Friday night, and I was like, oh, that'll be great. But there was a line out the door.
What?
And it was raining a little bit, so I was just like,
not on this trip.
I'll skip it. And I went somewhere else, like a couple blocks away, that was just as good, in my opinion.
Joe would disagree. Joe would absolutely disagree that it's just as good, but I know what you mean. Like you gotta.
Exactly.
Yo, Jay, I'm the same way with like buffalo wings, right? Like I haven't been like, you know, from upstate New York. It's like I'm always trying to find delicious buffalo wings, and there's a couple spots in New York that I love. And like if one spot is crazy, like on Saturdays, it's insane at the bars, right? It's like college football, so I gotta have that backup place. But I don't know if Joe will accept you having like another pizza spot that's on its same level.
I know, he probably wouldn't. But the thing is, I will say, they have Joe's Pizza in LA as well. So if you live in LA, you know, there's a couple different spots of Joe's. That is the best pizza in Los Angeles that I've had, to be fair to all the other places. Yeah, because, well, LA, the standard is like much different. I don't want to say lower because that's rude, but it is.
I got you.
I'm very picky with pizza. I consider my to connoisseur of sorts. I'm very picky. Like, I won't just settle. I'll eat Domino's, but I'm not gonna pretend to enjoy it. I mean, it's whatever. Like, it's, you know, shit junk food.
Yo,
it's
Jane,
not pizza.
I agree with you so much, and like beyond just being like on the same exact level, because I know, you know, just going back to the Jackson Heights thing I mentioned a moment or two ago, I remember talking to her, and she had to be like 18, 19. I was like, yo, because I'm always curious where like people think the best slices are, right? I was like, yo, where's the best slice? And she literally had the nerve to say Little Caesars because they have the best deals.
What?
I was just, and she grew up in Queens. I'm like, wait, no, you're not allowed to say that, and I'm gonna blame. But see, you're young too. Like, you're almost her age. Like, how can we accept that as an answer?
I don't know. I guess it's like just the way people are raised. Like, if you grew up just eating Little Caesars, if you have like a family member who works there or something, or there's like coupons.
Oh my God.
I understand, you know, a Little Caesars pie for a whole family is much cheaper than like a gourmet pie. But at the same time, I will say that I personally think it's worth it to go the extra mile and, you know, do the $20, $15 pie, because you're going to have the better pizza experience and you're probably going to have more pizza as well. So I don't know. I don't know how someone can eat Little Caesars. I think Little Caesars sucks.
Yes, exclamation point as well, right? I mean, like, come on, like, for real. And Jane, like we're already 11 minutes in, and all we've talked about is like New York and food, but that's okay.
Pizza, that's okay, because that's the main things that make up my personality.
Yes.
Those two things.
100%, Jane. And I gotta ask you though, you know, and you can't tell me like the attitude, right? So don't use the answer of attitude as your answer. But what I want to know is you got to give me one or two New York habits or like things you do that just is representative of signature New Yorker that you brought out to LA. Because I know you're an LA girl now, but like, and I'll give you one or two of mine. But you got to tell me like one or two things that like it's super New Yorkish that you do out there in LA.
Well, I mean, I would say attitude, but I've been banned from saying
You've been
that.
banned. No, that's easy.
Even though it is true, because, you know, I do like tone it down somewhat, but inside there's always that fucking like, are you fucking kidding me? And sometimes I think it does show on my face. So I guess I would say not as much attitude, but more like a stank face.
Gotcha.
Like, I'm not afraid to like, you know, be passive aggressive. Like if somebody's irritating me or if they say something that I think is stupid, not that I disagree with, because everyone's entitled to their opinion, but if something you say is genuinely like so off the mark, I will kind of just like let you know without
crazy
saying
face.
a word.
Crazy face. Jane, I'm gonna give you the super assist, right? So I'm gonna give you one example, and if you can match my example with equal or better, we can hop off to another question. If you can't, then we're gonna grill you until you can. Okay? A New York habit of mine that I bring everywhere, whether it's like going down to Florida, LA, London. Whenever I have pizza, I always fold it. I don't care. I will take a slight like the little tiny like square pizza, or I don't care what shape it is. It's gonna be folded. I will take a Chicago style like deep dish thing and I will fold it and make a mess because I only eat pizza folded up. Bam, Jane. Match me.
I mean, I agree with that. I also do that.
No, you don't. I can't see you folding it. Are you for real?
I fold it. I mean, just out of pure convenience. Like, just holding it, it's easier to fold because then it doesn't like flop.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like flop over if it's like really hot, and then the cheese melts off. So you have to fold it to give it that like, you know, that airborneness, I guess.
I feel you.
I guess like I'm not good at thinking on the spot. Like
it's all
this,
good.
I guess what I will say is that even if I don't use these like terms as much in conversation, when I'm thinking in my like my inner monologue, basically.
Okay.
I use like all of these slang terms, I guess you could call it, that I picked up growing up in Queens and going to, you know, school in Queens. The big one being like dead ass.
Yes.
OD.
Yes.
Like when you say OD, someone in LA would be like, did you
TMZ
fentanyl?
Yes.
Or something? But I'm like, no, OD, and you can't explain what OD means. It's like, it means a lot of things. It has a lot of meanings.
Yeah.
Like, it means yes, it means that's cool. It means like great job. It means a lot. It means this is too much, like in a bad
Yes.
way. There's so many different, it's kind of just a placeholder. So I use that a lot. And
Yes.
I kind of like suppress myself from using it more in conversation because I don't want people to be like confused. Like, why are you talking about overdoses right now?
Oh my God, Jane, yo, you let it loose. I love it. I love it. Yo, okay, so you've officially met me because I will agree, like OD and like fam and like oh my gosh, yeah,
Yes.
all those terms, 100% New York.
Yes.
100%. Jane, just one more thing related to the whole food conversation. Where can I get a good bagel? I never get good bagels in LA, and like that's come on. Like I need like a decent bagel. I can do like subpar Joe's Pizza LA style, but I need like in the morning I need a bagel. And like LA, is it the water? Like yo, where can I get a good bagel?
It is I honestly think it is the water that's like trash here, or it's just really good in New York. But I will say there's this bagel place in the Valley that I go to sometimes. It's called Noah's New York Bagels. So they specifically, they name drop the New York. So you have high expectations. And I personally think they're great. I wouldn't be able to like tell a difference necessarily between that and a real New York bagel if you like put them in front of me with no label. They have a lot of options.
That's huge.
They have these, exactly. It is huge because I'm like, I just crave that authenticity. That's the biggest thing I miss the most about New York is the food because it's just so much. It's a different level. It's a different quality than like mostly everywhere else in the country, save for like a couple cities maybe. But New York is top as far as food.
Absolutely.
So
Yo, Jane, what is your go-to style of bagel though? Is it sesame? Is it rye? You throw some like cream cheese, lox, like what's your like signature bagel go-to?
I would say either like, this is very New York, like a bacon, egg, and cheese on a plain bagel, just toasted.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fire because it has every flavory.
Yo, Jane, did you throw that word fire in there just to make sure that we know that it's all about the New York?
That was totally unintentional.
Yes.
Like that just totally came out.
That's what I'm talking. See, Jane, like we're gonna talk like on a weekly basis so we can get more of your New York to pour out and just like influence the entire LA area.
I need that. I really need to like, because I don't want it to ever go away. People, they move from like another country and then they lose their accent after a decade or so. Like, not that I have an accent per se, but I just don't want to lose that like little flair that makes, the way I talk unique.
You're gonna become a Kardashian in the next 6 months. I just know it. Like I know, like so we gotta like keep you away from the Kardashian side. Yeah.
Hi.
Exactly. I hear like little like hints of it, and I think it's just natural, right? It's just natural, just like your surroundings.
Yeah, exactly. You just adapt. That's what humans were made to be, adaptable to our environment. That's like the most important thing about being a human. Otherwise, you die.
Exactly. Jane, I just want to say, like, I really want to make your Pulp Fiction photos like my new wallpaper, or like go to skinit.com and like make it like my new iPhone cover, because like I am absolutely like Pulp Fiction top, if not top 5, maybe even top 3, probably number 1, but I feel like there's 1 or 2 films that might be right there with it for me. Like Goodfellas is up there. Yo, can we explain?
Same, literally same.
Right? Wait, no. Goodfellas too?
Yeah.
Yo,
no, definitely.
Jane,
That's definitely top 3.
do you see why this had to be a video interview? So we can make like this eye contact and like our eyes.
Smiling.
Or see, you're smiling, our eyes will be popping out. So okay, real quick, you gotta just break down the epicness of Pulp Fiction, because not only do you, all right, I don't mean to validate, but yes, you're super hot in the photos, right? But you gotta explain, and like, I love the fact that you didn't just do that one signature like cover shot. You did like the ODs. Oh my God, here I am saying OD, right? The literal OD scene, right, with the blood coming out of Uma Thurman's character, like epic. You gotta talk about it.
Well, thank you so much. And Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie.
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino is my favorite filmmaker. He's like my number 1 person that I would want to like have dinner with and just pick his brain and talk to him.
What?
Oh, I think he's so cool.
I love it.
Yeah, so Pulp Fiction, I think it's the best movie ever made. It's the most unique movie ever made. There's no other movie on this planet that is just similar to it. Even his other films like Kill Bill, which is also a favorite of mine, it just doesn't hold a candle to it, because just especially like the non-linear storytelling aspect is like, it's been done, you know, after the fact, but in my opinion, nobody ever did it as good as that movie did, and everything just fits together so seamlessly, and it's like the order that everything happens in feels like the order that we are supposed to see it in,
Yes.
even if it's not the order that happened chronologically. Everything happens in that movie for a reason, in my opinion. Like, everything just falls into place. Every story is so unique and interesting. Every character is so full of depth and interesting, you know, tidbits, and there's just so many good lines, and it's just, I could go on and on.
Oh my God, no, yo, like I'm drooling. Like I'm actually, maybe it's good we're not on camera, because I'm like literally drooling right now, because yo, you're like explaining exactly how I feel about it. Like, you got Bruce Willis's character, and then but then you love Vincent and Jules because of like their intro scene, and then we all know what happens, you know, in that one when Bruce goes back to, oh my gosh, so many, oh my God, yo, Jane. I'm like nerding out with you on movies, and I know you don't even like to like dig into movies like that. Like, you kind of mess with them, but like there's certain ones, and then oh my gosh, we won't get into it now, but like the next time we chop it up, we got to talk about Goodfellas, please.
Oh, definitely. It's so funny that people say, like, well, not people, but like certain people over time have made an argument that Goodfellas is like a man's movie and women will never fully get the movie. And I'm just like, that is such a load of shit.
Yes.
Because whether or not I fully get it, like, quote unquote, I love the movie. I recognize, you know, the art and the effort and the fucking talent that was put into it. Like, obviously, everyone in that movie fucking slays their role.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 3-hour movie. It's thoroughly entertaining. So I don't understand, you know, why there's some kind of like gate around it. But I think it's just one of the best movies of all time. From the very first second of it, it just sucks you in. And I'm a huge film buff. I love movies. I used to not, but during quarantine, like the first original quarantine in April of last year, this is before I had my dog, and you know, everyone was super scared, so I didn't see anyone for like almost 2 months.
Wow.
I was completely alone, so every night, to like basically keep my sanity, I would turn my phone off, make a popcorn, and just put on like a classic movie, either that I had seen or that I hadn't seen yet. And I watched so many movies that time. It was only last year. And I was like, wait, how did I never see this before? It was like my own little film festival, except I could smoke weed during the movie.
Yo, Jane, for whatever reason, like I'm looking at my notes, I haven't noted that, like, certain movies you like, but you're not the biggest movie fan, and like now that like there's certain movies that you just nerd out on, we got to do a part 2. Like, we got to talk more about Tarantino's greatness, and like, okay, all right, I'm just gonna throw like random movies at you, and just let me know if you've seen it or don't want to see it. The Big Lebowski. Have you ever messed with The Big Lebowski or no?
Never seen it, but I want to because I got a very high recommendation.
Yes.
So that's on the list.
Listen, you and I are on the same type of movie wave. Like Pulp Fiction, Goodfellas. I'm telling you, The Big Lebowski. Like, you have to find a way to watch it. Couple other ones. Oh my gosh. All right, super cheesy, I know, but like we're talking 90s, right? Forrest Gump. Yeah, Forrest Gump.
Of course, yes. I've seen Forrest Gump many times.
Got you.
And everyone loved it so much. It's a great movie.
Yo, got you. All right, I'm just gonna throw this random one out because it's like one of my low-key cheesy favorite movies of all time. Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise. Yeah, Vanilla Sky. No,
never seen it. Is it? Who else is in that movie?
It's like him and Penelope Cruz. Yeah, that's and Cameron Diaz.
Cruz.
Yeah.
Huh.
Crazy. It's
I've
super.
Never watched it.
I love it. Okay, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and then I'm done.
Yes.
You have seen?
Yes.
Okay.
I have seen that, and it's one of the movies that I'm most happy that I decided to just like bite the bullet and watch it, because I always heard about it.
Yeah.
But for some reason it just never clicked for me. And then finally I watched it, and I never could have like conceived of, you know, what happening. And I'm actually due for a rewatch because I'm sure there's like tons of little details and stuff, but it's a very emotional movie, and I am a very emotional person. Like, media, whether it be music, movies, TV, you know, just little videos, music especially, really just like, it can bring me to such a place that I'm like, you know, this isn't in front of me, but I just feel like I'm totally encaptured in this moment. I feel like I'm living the situation along with what I'm watching. So I feel like I am very like, I don't know if the word is empathetic or where you like fully take on someone else's pain. I guess that is kind of like empathetic. So yeah, I really appreciate like all forms of media a lot.
Jane, I wish you could see all like I literally like, I'm a big believer in stickies, and I just have like massive amounts of stickies all over like this clipboard, and just like a gazillion questions. But I am gonna cut you, Lula. I'm telling you, I could go like 3 hours with you. You're just too dope. But I understand it's a Thursday, and I know it's like LA and it's like all that crazy stuff. But just listen, I cannot thank you enough for coming through. I have a gazillion other questions, but I will let you kind of catch your breath because, your ear has been to this phone or you've been speaking to the speakerphone for nearly 30 minutes. Oh, my God, Jane. You are amazing.
It just goes by so fast. I love chatting about this stuff. I can honestly talk. I could do a podcast like just about movies and TV shows that I've watched just recently, to be quite honest, and I could fill like a 2 or 3 hour podcast just talking about that shit. Like,
Jane, listen, I am going to connect with Brian, and I'll tell you right now, like, listen, I'm a movie fanatic. It doesn't mean like every time you watch a movie, we got to hop on the phone and do a Q&A, but if you ever want to just like weigh in on anything and like we could just have it like, Jane Wilde, top 3 reasons to see or maybe not see this movie. If you ever want to nerd out on movies, like I want to make that a reality because like I said, I love you, Jane, but there's like so much explicit stuff about you. And I'm like, yo, Jane is way more doper than that, man. Like, yo, do you guys not know that she's like new? And like I get it, it's the industry, right? And people like want to know all your favorite position and all that stuff. But it's like you as a person, it's kind of like Kim Kardashian only being seen as for her sex tape, right? And like, do you find out like, yo, Kim is actually a dope person, right? I feel the same exact way about you, Jane. And I think there's so much dope stuff about you. Like, come on, like Queen's bred, like.
Thank you.
Insane.
Well, I appreciate that so much, and that's one of the reasons that I hired Brian is because I said, well, I want to start, doing more interviews and more podcasts, and then next year I'm gonna, start focusing on streaming and just doing more avenues of content where people can see like more who I am inside, not just what I have to offer like as far as my performance, but just like as a person. Maybe when I'm acting and stuff, you don't fully get to feel the vision of me, so I would like to show people more if they're open to hearing and seeing it. I would love to show my that side of myself to more people next year. So that would be awesome.
Jane, I'm beyond speechless at just how much fun this was. I mean, like I said, we're talking about Joe's Pizza. We're talking about the bad water of LA, or not in those words, but in terms of like bagels and pizza production, right? And like I said, like the movie stuff, there's so much to take away from this, but the bottom line is we will get this turned around ASAP. The live link will be sent over to Brian, our guy Brian. And like I said, once you catch your breath and like you're like, yo, that was kind of fun, or yo, I want to weigh in on some movies, even if it's Netflix stuff, like, yo, movies are like, it's a hip-hop type of lifestyle site, but like movies, come on, like Netflix and chill is essentially a hip-hop expression,
I completely agree, and I'm definitely open to that. Feel free as well to like reach out anytime. And before I go, I actually want to recommend, we didn't talk much about TV.
Let's do it.
I care more about TV than movies.
Okay.
And there's this one show that I just started watching that my dad recommended to me. And I have not been so obsessed with a show in such a long time. So I have to recommend it to you. It's a weekly show on Showtime. It's called Yellowjackets.
Okay.
It has a really good cast. Like Christina Ricci is in it, Juliette Lewis, a lot of cool people. And it's just a really interesting premise. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it's about a plane crash and, the survivors of the plane crash, about how they cope and what they do. But there's like an interesting twist.
Okay, Jane, that's called Lost. Okay, we've all seen that series Lost on ABC. No. Jane, we've seen that.
Adults. It's a high school women's soccer team and a couple other people. And I don't want to say anything too much, but like, just trust me. You want to watch it. You're going to get really hooked. and you're gonna like it.
Oh my gosh, like how could you like end it on such a big season? Let me ask you this: how many episodes have already run, or is like the first season already in the books?
Been 5.
Jane.
No, not the first season is not out all the way at all, and I'm like over here dying, like literally like just counting the minutes until the next episode comes out, and it's really good.
Jane, why don't we have like a TikTok like reaction of you on a weekly basis that we can like feature on the site or something? Come on, Jane. Like, yo, if you're passionate about this, you know how many other people will probably want to get your reactions to these episodes or these recaps?
Thank you. I mean, maybe I've considered like, doing a reaction.
Yeah.
But I usually like to turn my phone off when I watch like an intense show like that, because I find myself like, if I'm bored, well, not that I would be bored by it, but just like my attention span, I sometimes find myself like reaching for my phone and trying to look at it, and I don't want to do that.
Listen, Jane, you gotta at some point, right? Like find out what shows and like what networks you're super, super big fan of, because we have great relationship with like folks over at Stars. I want to say Showtime as well. Not sure about HBO, but I know like Stars for sure. And like I want to say Showtime as well. And like, yo, we can get you advanced screeners and things like that.
Really?
So yeah, I got you.
Wow.
So like I said, like just keep it in the back of your head. Obviously, I know you're juggling a gazillion things, but like I said, I'm all about like these fun types of relationships and just kind of keeping in contact. And if you are the TV queen, I know Yellowjackets has already started up, but like, let me know what you're interested in advance. And yo, like, I'm all about getting you more exposure. Like, come on, from New York to New York. All right, upstate New York to Queens, New York. Yes, Jane. Definitely want to keep on showing you love. So I'll ping Brian about that as well, but just kind of keep it in the back of your head. Lock me in, and I promise nobody has this number, okay?
Of course, you're locked in. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And this was super fun. I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, part 2. Go have some fun, Jane. And please don't eat any bagels unless they're from that New York spot, that the Noah's New York bagels, okay?
You won't catch me eating shit else out here.
Yo, Jane, you are crazy. Get out of here. Lock me in, and we will have a part 2, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Jane. Take care. See ya.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And there you have it, from talking about where to go to for the most authentic New York bagels in LA to suggesting dope fire must-watch shows on Showtime. Yes, we will be checking out Yellowjackets and so much more. The one and only Jane Wilde came through in such an epic fashion. To be continued. We have to get a part 2. Yes, we will try to get Jane on camera so we can have some funny reactions on the spot. Stay tuned. More from untitled culture.com.